Before we get into the story, leave a comment and let us know what city you're watching from. And don't forget to rate the story from 0 to 10 at the end. Enjoy the story. The neon lights of downtown flickered against rain-slicked streets as Madison Hayes clutched her phone, scrolling through the group chat one more time. Her best friends had planned this bachelorette party for weeks, and she'd tried to be enthusiastic. Truly, she had. But as she stood outside Club Velvet in a ridiculous white sash that screamed "Bride-to-be" in glittering pink letters, all she felt was a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. "Come on, Maddie. Stop hiding by the door." Her maid of honor, Jessica, grabbed her arm, pulling her through the velvet curtains into a world of pulsing music and purple lighting. The bass thumped so hard Madison could feel it vibrating through her chest. Around them, groups of women shrieked with laughter, waving dollar bills at the stage where a man in a police uniform was doing things with his hips that should probably be illegal. Madison forced a smile, following her friends to a reserved table near the stage. Champagne bottles already sat waiting, ice melting in silver buckets. Jessica poured her a glass, eyes sparkling with mischief. "Okay, so don't freak out," Jessica began, and Madison's stomach dropped. Nothing good ever followed those words. "What did you do?" "I may have ordered a private performance, just for you." Jessica grinned wickedly. "Jess, no, please tell me you didn't." "Oh, I absolutely did." The agency said they're sending their best guy. Apparently, he's new, but incredible. Should be here any minute. Madison buried her face in her hands, her cheeks burning. This was her nightmare. She'd agreed to the club, to the drinks, to wearing this ridiculous sash. But a private stripper? For her? While her friends watched and probably recorded it on their phones? She took a long gulp of champagne, the bubbles burning down her throat. Maybe if she drank enough, she wouldn't remember this tomorrow. Though considering she had a job interview on Monday at Sterling Enterprises, the biggest tech company in the city, she probably shouldn't show up hungover. The music shifted, a slower, sultrier beat filling the space. Jessica squealed, grabbing Madison's shoulder. "Oh my God, I think that's him." Madison looked up, and her heart stopped. The man walking toward their table was not what she expected. Most of the performers tonight wore costumes ranging from firefighters to construction workers, all deliberately cheesy and over the top. But this man wore a simple black suit, perfectly tailored to his tall frame. His dark hair was swept back, and even in the dim lighting, she could see the sharp angles of his jaw, the intensity of his gray-blue eyes. He moved with a confidence that made her mouth go dry, each step deliberate and controlled. When he reached their table, he stopped, his gaze sweeping over the group before landing on Madison. Madison Hayes? His voice was deep, smooth as whiskey, with just a hint of amusement. She nodded, unable to form words. "Your friends ordered something special for you tonight." He loosened his tie with one hand, a slow, practiced movement that made Jessica and the others erupt in cheers. Oh God, this was really happening. Madison's face burned as he circled behind her chair. She could smell his cologne, something expensive and woodsy that made her head spin more than the champagne. His hands rested lightly on her shoulders, and she nearly jumped out of her skin. "Relax," he murmured near her ear, his breath warm against her neck. "Just play along." Something in his tone made her pause. There was a hint of uncertainty there, maybe even discomfort that mirrored her own. She glanced up at him, catching his eye for just a moment, and saw something unexpected. Confusion. He looked almost as out of place as she felt. The music swelled, and he moved in front of her, loosening his tie completely and draping it around her neck. Her friend screamed with delight, phones out, capturing every mortifying second. But then something strange happened. As he began to move, She realized he had no idea what he was doing. His movements were stiff, awkward even. He unbuttoned his shirt with fingers that fumbled slightly, revealing a white undershirt beneath. When he attempted what she assumed was supposed to be a sensual hip movement, it looked more like he'd pulled a muscle. Madison bit her lip, trying not to laugh. Was this really their best guy? He leaned down again, his hands on the armrests of her chair, caging her in. Up close, she could see the faint sheen of sweat on his forehead, the way his jaw was clenched tight. "I'm sorry," he whispered, so quietly only she could hear. "I think there's been a mistake." "You think?" she whispered back, her lips twitching. His eyes met hers, and suddenly they were both fighting smiles. Here they were, two completely mortified people trapped in the world's most awkward performance. "How much longer do I have to do this?" he asked under his breath. "I don't know. You're the professional. I'm really not." Jessica's voice cut through their whispered exchange. "Come on, Maddie. Don't just sit there. Dance with him." Before Madison could protest, her friends were pulling her to her feet, pushing her toward him. The man, whoever he was, caught her awkwardly as she stumbled in her heels. His hand steadied her waist, and for a moment, they stood frozen, faces inches apart. "I'm Madison," she said, feeling ridiculous. "Daniel," he replied. "Daniel Sterling." The name rang a bell, but before she could place it, Jessica turned up the music even louder, and her friends formed a circle around them, clapping and cheering. Daniel looked at her with an expression of pure panic. "Just pretend you know what you're doing," Madison heard herself say, and then she did something completely out of character. She laughed, a real, genuine laugh that seemed to release all the tension that had been building in her chest for weeks. Planning a wedding, dealing with her mother's expectations, worrying about her career. It all suddenly felt absurd compared to this bizarre moment. Daniel's expression shifted, his panic melting into something warmer. "Pretend. I can do that." He took her hand, pulling her closer as he attempted what might generously be called dancing. He was terrible at it. Absolutely, wonderfully terrible. But something about his complete lack of skill made Madison relax. If he could be this bad at something and still smile about it, maybe she could too. The song finally ended, and Madison's friends erupted in applause. Daniel stepped back, running a hand through his hair, his shirt still half unbuttoned. He looked so thoroughly uncomfortable that Madison felt a surge of sympathy. "Thank you for your time," he said stiffly, and before anyone could respond, he grabbed his jacket from where he'd draped it over a chair and headed for the exit. "Wait," Madison called out, surprising herself. She grabbed her clutch and hurried after him, ignoring Jessica's knowing whistle. She caught up with him outside, the cool night air a relief after the stifling heat of the club. He was leaning against the brick wall, jacket slung over his shoulder, looking up at the sky with an expression of profound relief. "Hey," Madison said softly. He turned, eyebrows rising. "Did I forget something?" "Just an explanation." She crossed her arms, but she was smiling. "That was possibly the worst strip performance I've ever seen. And I've seen exactly one, so congratulations." Daniel let out a short laugh, shaking his head. "I know. I'm sorry about that. There was a mix-up at the agency. I'm supposed to be meeting someone about a business deal, and somehow I ended up here instead." He paused, studying her face. "Though I have to admit, it wasn't entirely terrible." "No?" Madison felt her cheeks warm. "The company was good. Even if I did humiliate myself. Well, if it makes you feel better, I was supposed to be the one humiliated tonight. So thank you for taking that burden." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, the muffled bass from the club vibrating through the wall. Madison knew she should go back inside. Her friends were probably wondering where she'd gone. But something made her stay. Can I ask you something? Daniel said. You don't really want to be in there, do you? Madison blinked. What makes you say that? Just a guess. You looked about as enthusiastic as I felt. She bit her lip, then sighed. Is it that obvious? I love my friends, I do, but bachelorette parties aren't really my thing. Honestly, this whole wedding process isn't really my thing. Cold feet? More like cold everything. The words spilled out before she could stop them. I'm marrying a great guy. Jeffrey is successful, charming, comes from a good family. Everything looks perfect on paper. But I don't know if perfect on paper is the same as perfect in reality. Madison looked away, shocked at herself for confiding in a stranger. Sorry, I don't know why I'm telling you this. Sometimes it's easier to talk to someone you don't know, Daniel said quietly. No judgment, no expectations. Madison met his eyes, something unspoken passing between them. He was right. Standing here with this man who'd just embarrassed himself spectacularly, she felt more herself than she had in months. So what about you? She asked, changing the subject. Daniel Sterling. Why does that name sound familiar? His expression shifted, becoming more guarded. It's a common name. Is it? Madison tilted her head, studying him. There was something about the way he carried himself, the expensive cut of his suit, the watch on his wrist that probably cost more than her car. You said you were supposed to be at a business meeting. On a Saturday night? Business doesn't sleep in my world. And what world is that? Before he could answer, Jessica burst through the club doors, slightly unsteady on her heels. Maddie! There you are. We're about to do shots, and oh. She stopped, noticing Daniel. Hello again. Enjoying a private encore? I should go, Daniel said quickly. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding, Madison. I hope it's everything you want it to be. He walked away before Madison could respond, disappearing around the corner. Jessica looped her arm through Madison's, tugging her back toward the club. Okay, spill. What was that about? Nothing. He was just apologizing for the terrible performance. Terrible? Are you kidding? He was gorgeous. Who cares if he can't dance? Madison laughed, letting Jessica pull her back inside. But as she rejoined her friends, accepted a shot of something pink and probably too sweet, she couldn't stop thinking about gray-blue eyes and a smile that had felt surprisingly genuine. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Madison stood outside Sterling Enterprises, a massive glass and steel tower that dominated the downtown skyline. She smoothed down her navy pencil skirt, checked her reflection in the building's polished surface, and took a deep breath. This interview could change everything. A position as executive assistant to the CEO would mean better pay, better opportunities, a chance to actually build a career instead of just paying bills. She needed this. The lobby was all marble and modern art, intimidatingly pristine. Madison gave her name to the receptionist, who directed her to the 52nd floor. As the elevator climbed, her stomach performed acrobatics. You've got this, she whispered to herself. Professional. Confident. Don't mention the bachelorette party. Wait. Why would she mention the bachelorette party? The elevator doors opened to reveal a stunning reception area. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city. A woman in her 50s, elegantly dressed, greeted her with a warm smile. Miss Hayes? I'm Patricia, Mr. Sterling's current assistant. He's running a few minutes late from his previous meeting, but please, have a seat. Madison settled into a leather chair, her resume folder balanced on her lap. She tried not to fidget, tried not to think about how much was riding on this interview. He's ready for you now, Patricia said, after what felt like hours, but was probably only 5 minutes. Madison stood, smoothed her skirt one more time, and followed Patricia to a large oak door. Patricia knocked once, then pushed it open. Mr. Sterling, this is Madison Hayes for the executive assistant position. Madison stepped inside, her practiced smile in place, her hand extended for a professional handshake, and froze. Behind the massive desk, rising to his feet with an expression of equal shock, was Daniel. Not a stripper Daniel, not a lost businessman Daniel. Daniel Sterling, CEO of Sterling Enterprises, her potential new boss. Oh God, the silence stretched between them like a living thing, thick and suffocating. Madison's hand was still extended, frozen midair. Daniel stared at her, his face cycling through emotions she couldn't quite read. Shock, definitely. Recognition, obviously. And was that amusement flickering in his eyes? Ms. Hayes, he finally said, his voice carefully professional. He moved around the desk, taking her hand in a firm handshake that sent electricity shooting up her arm. Please, have a seat. Madison's brain screamed at her to run, to make up an excuse, any excuse, and get out of this office before she died of mortification. But her legs carried her to the chair facing his desk, her body moving on autopilot while her mind raced. This couldn't be happening. The universe could not possibly be this cruel. Daniel returned to his seat, and for a moment, he simply looked at her. Really looked at her. His expression was unreadable, professional, giving nothing away. But she saw the faint twitch at the corner of his mouth, the barely suppressed smile he was fighting. So, he began, picking up her resume. Madison Hayes, bachelor's degree in business administration from State University. 3 years of experience as an administrative assistant at Crawford & Associates. Excellent references. He set the paper down. Impressive credentials. Thank you, Mr. Sterling. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. Tell me, Miss Hayes. He leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled in front of him. What interests you about this position? Madison swallowed hard. Okay, she could do this. She could pretend Saturday night never happened. She could be professional. Sterling Enterprises is one of the most innovative companies in the tech sector, she began, falling into the speech she'd practiced. The opportunity to work directly with leadership, to be part of decision-making processes at this level, would be invaluable for my career growth. I'm highly organized, detail-oriented, and I thrive in fast-paced environments. Do you? Daniel's eyes glinted. Handle high-pressure situations well? Was he mocking her? Madison's cheeks heated. Yes, sir. I do. Even when faced with unexpected circumstances, definitely mocking her. Especially then, she said, meeting his gaze directly. Two could play this game. I believe adaptability is one of my strongest qualities. Adaptability. He nodded slowly. That's important in this role. My schedule is demanding. There are often last-minute changes, situations that require discretion and quick thinking. I understand. Do you? He stood, moving to the window. From his position, he commanded a view of the entire city, a literal king surveying his domain. This position requires someone who can anticipate needs, who can handle confidential information, who won't be rattled by unusual situations. Madison stood as well, unable to remain seated while he loomed over her. Mr. Sterling, I can assure you that I'm more than capable of handling whatever this position demands. He turned to face her. Are you always this composed? Are you always this cryptic during interviews? The words were out before she could stop them. Oh God, she'd just snapped at a potential employer, at a CEO, at a man who could blacklist her from every decent job in the city. But instead of anger, Daniel smiled. A real smile that transformed his entire face, making him look younger, more approachable. Actually, I'm terrible at interviews. I usually let Patricia handle the preliminary screening. Then why are you conducting this one yourself? Call it a hunch. He returned to his desk, but this time he perched on the edge of it, more relaxed. Ms. Hayes, Can we be honest with each other for a moment? I think that ship sailed when you accidentally stripped at my bachelorette party. He laughed, a genuine sound that filled the office. Fair point. So let's address it directly. Saturday night was a series of unfortunate misunderstandings. I was supposed to meet a potential investor at a restaurant next door to that club. My phone died. I couldn't check the address. And apparently I walked into the wrong establishment. Your friends assumed I was their entertainment, and by the time I realized what was happening, it seemed easier to play along than to embarrass everyone. Easier? You call that easier? You looked like you were being tortured. I was being tortured. I have absolutely no rhythm. None, Madison agreed, and they both smiled. The point is, Daniel continued, what happened Saturday was bizarre and awkward, but it also showed me something interesting about you. That I have questionable friends who hire strippers. That you have a sense of humor. That you can laugh at an absurd situation instead of freezing up. That when you could have stayed safely in your seat, you followed me outside to check if I was okay. He paused. That's the kind of person I need working with me. Someone who sees beyond the surface, who stays human even in weird circumstances. Madison's heart was doing strange things in her chest. So you're saying my qualifications for this job include witnessing your failed exotic dancing career? I'm saying I've interviewed 15 candidates for this position, all with perfect resumes and practiced answers. None of them made me laugh. None of them felt real. He picked up her resume again. Your credentials are solid, Madison. But more importantly, I think we could work well together. That is, if you can get past the mortification of Saturday night. Could she? Madison looked at him, really looked at him. Not as the awkward stranger from the club, but as Daniel Sterling, CEO, one of the youngest and most successful entrepreneurs in the city, a man whose decisions affected thousands of employees, whose company's stock prices were analyzed by financial experts. He was offering her a dream job, the kind of opportunity she'd worked years to even get close to. But could she work with him? Could she be professional when every time she looked at him, she'd remember his fumbling attempt to unbutton his shirt? When she'd remember the whispered conversation, the way he'd looked at her, like they shared a secret. Miss Hayes, Daniel prompted, I need to know if you're interested in the position. Can I ask you something first? Of course. Saturday night, when we talked outside the club, you said business doesn't sleep in your world. Was that true, or were you just being mysterious? He studied her for a long moment. It was true. I work constantly. Weekends, holidays, early mornings, late nights. The person in this role needs to understand that, needs to be available, flexible, committed. And what about you? The question surprised them both. Madison pressed on. You asked if I wanted to be at my bachelorette party. Do you want to be working all the time? Something flickered across his face. That's a complicated question. Most important ones are. He smiled again, but this time it was tinged with something sadder. The honest answer? I don't know anymore. I built this company from nothing. It's been my entire focus for the past 6 years. But lately, I've started to wonder if I've become so consumed by it that I've forgotten what I'm working for. The vulnerability in his admission caught Madison off guard. This wasn't the polished CEO speaking. This was just Daniel, the same man who'd admitted he didn't know what he was doing on Saturday night. I'll take the job, she heard herself say, if you're offering it. Just like that? Just like that? Madison squared her shoulders. But I have conditions. His eyebrows rose. You're negotiating already? You said you wanted someone who stays human. Well, humans have boundaries. I'll work hard. I'll be available when you need me. I'll keep your confidences. But I won't be available 24/7. I need time for my own life. Your wedding. The word hung between them, and Madison felt a strange twist in her chest. Yes, among other things. Daniel was quiet for a moment, his expression thoughtful. Then he nodded. Fair enough. I can respect that. When's the wedding? 3 months from now, June 15th. Then you'll need time off for the honeymoon. 2 weeks. We're going to Bali. Why did saying that out loud make her feel hollow? Madison pushed the feeling away. Jeffrey was excited about Bali. He'd picked the resort himself, some 5-star place with private beaches and couples spa treatments. Sounds lovely. Daniel's tone was neutral, professional. Well then, Ms. Hayes, if you're serious about the position, I'd like to offer it to you. The salary is $85,000 annually, with full benefits and quarterly bonuses based on company performance. Patricia can walk you through the details. $85,000. Madison's current salary was barely $50,000. This would change everything. She could pay off her student loans faster, help her mother with her medical bills, maybe even save enough for a down payment on a real apartment. I accept, she said, extending her hand. Daniel shook it, his grip warm and firm. Welcome to Sterling Enterprises. Can you start next Monday? I need to give 2 weeks' notice at my current job. Fair enough. 2 weeks from today, then. He released her hand, but his eyes held hers a moment longer. Madison, I know this is an unusual situation, but I want you to know that what happened Saturday stays Saturday. In this office, we're professional colleagues, nothing more. Agreed. She ignored the small voice in her head that whispered disappointment. Nothing more. Patricia was waiting outside the office, her smile knowing. How did it go? I got the job. Wonderful. I had a feeling you would. Now, let's discuss the details, shall we? The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of transition. Madison worked her notice at Crawford & Associates, where her boss was disappointed but understanding. She met with Patricia 3 times to learn the systems, the schedules, the particular preferences that came with working for Daniel Sterling. He takes his coffee black, but keep cream available for guests. He's allergic to shellfish, so check restaurant menus before booking lunch meetings. He hates small talk, but appreciates directness. And most importantly, Patricia leaned in conspiratorially. He works himself too hard. Part of your job will be protecting him from himself. Make sure he eats lunch. Remind him when he has personal commitments. Don't let him schedule back-to-back meetings all day without breaks. Madison absorbed it all, taking careful notes. She also avoided thinking about Saturday night, about the wedding, about the strange flutter in her stomach every time she thought about starting this new job. Jeffrey was thrilled about her new salary. $85,000. Maddie, that's incredible. He'd taken her to dinner at his favorite steakhouse to celebrate. This changes our financial projections completely. We can afford the upgraded honeymoon package now. I thought you already booked Bali. I did. But there's a premium tier with better rooms, private excursions. It's only another $3,000. Madison pushed her steak around her plate. Jeffrey, I was kind of hoping to put the extra money toward my mom's medical bills. His smile dimmed slightly. Of course. We can do that too. There's room in the budget for both. But there wasn't. Not really. Madison had run the numbers herself. Jeffrey's salary as a financial analyst was good. But between his student loans, his car payment, and his expensive tastes, he didn't have much left over. Her new salary would essentially be funding their lifestyle. We should talk about finances, she said carefully. After we're married, I mean. How we want to structure things. Joint account, obviously, simplifies everything. Right. But I was thinking maybe we keep some separate accounts, too? For independence? Jeffrey set down his fork, his expression cooling. Madison, are you having doubts? No, I just think it's smart to discuss these things before Because it seems like ever since that bachelorette party, you've been distant. Madison blinked. What? No, I've been busy with the job transition. Have you? He leaned back, studying her. Or are you avoiding wedding planning? Your mother called me yesterday asking about the seating chart. She said you haven't responded to any of her emails. Guilt twisted in Madison's stomach. I'll call her. I've just been overwhelmed. With a job you haven't even started yet. Jeffrey, I'm not trying to fight Maddie. I'm just saying, if you're not sure about this, about us, you need to tell me now. Before we get any closer to the wedding, the restaurant suddenly felt too small, too hot. Madison looked at Jeffrey, really looked at him. Handsome, successful, everything her mother had always told her to want. They'd been dating for 2 years, engaged for 6 months. It made sense on paper. But sitting across from him now, she felt nothing. No excitement, no longing, no real connection beyond comfortable familiarity. I'm sure, she made herself say. Just stressed? The new job, the wedding planning, it's a lot. Jeffrey's expression softened. I know. And I'm here to support you. We're a team, remember? Right. A team. He reached across the table, taking her hand. I love you, Maddie. I love you too. The words felt automatic, rehearsed. Monday morning, Madison woke up at 5:30, nerves and excitement tangling in her stomach. She'd laid out her outfit the night before, a charcoal gray suit with a cream silk blouse, professional, but not stuffy. Pearl earrings Jeffrey had given her for their first anniversary. The Sterling Enterprises building looked even more impressive in the early morning light. Madison showed her new ID badge to security and took the elevator to the 52nd floor, her heart pounding with each ascending number. Good morning, Patricia greeted her warmly. Welcome to your first day. Coffee? Please. Black, just like Mr. Sterling. Patricia winked, handing her a steaming mug. Now, he's already in his office. Been here since 6, I'd imagine. Your desk is here. She led Madison to a sleek workspace just outside Daniel's office. 3 computer monitors, a phone system that looked like it could launch missiles, and a leather chair that probably cost more than her old desk. You'll coordinate his schedule, handle correspondence, screen calls, prepare documents for meetings. Patricia pulled up various systems on the computers. His calendar is color-coded. Red is board meetings. Blue is external appointments. Green is internal meetings. And yellow is personal time, though he rarely takes it. Madison absorbed the information, her fingers already itching to organize, to jump in. He'll want to brief you himself when he has a moment. For now, familiarize yourself with today's schedule. He has a conference call at 8, meetings straight through until 2. Then he's supposed to have lunch, though he'll probably try to skip it. Got it. Patricia gathered her things, a bittersweet smile on her face. He's a good man, Madison. Demanding, yes. Driven to the point of obsession, absolutely. But he cares about his people. Treat him well. Then she was gone, retiring after 20 years of service, leaving Madison alone in her new role. At exactly 7:45, Daniel's office door opened. He stepped out, already on his phone, gesturing with his free hand as he spoke. He was in full CEO mode, sharp and commanding in a navy suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. When he saw Madison, he paused mid-sentence, something flickering across his face before the professional mask slid back into place. I'll call you back, Martin. He ended the call, sliding the phone into his pocket. Madison, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Sterling. She stood, instinctively smoothing her skirt. How are you settling in? Patricia was very thorough. I think I have a handle on today's schedule. Good. I have a conference call in 15 minutes. I'll need you to sit in, take notes. After that, We'll go over expectations and answer any questions you have. Of course. He started to turn back to his office, then stopped. Madison, about Saturday night stays Saturday night, she said quickly. Professional colleagues. Nothing more. Something in his eyes dimmed slightly, but he nodded. Right. Professional. The conference call was intense. Daniel spoke with leaders from Sterling Enterprises' European division about expanding into new markets. Madison typed furiously, capturing action items, noting who committed to what. She watched Daniel work, impressed by how he commanded the room, even virtually. He listened more than he spoke, asked sharp questions, and made decisions with swift confidence. When the call ended, he leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. You okay? Madison asked before she could stop herself. Headache. Had it since yesterday. He waved dismissively. Did you capture everything? Every action item. I'll have a summary document ready within the hour. Excellent. He studied her. You're efficient. That's why you hired me. Among other reasons. The comment hung in the air, loaded with unspoken meaning. Madison cleared her throat. Your next meeting is at 9, legal team regarding the Patterson acquisition. Then at 10:30, you have the marketing presentation for the Q2 campaign. Cancel both. She blinked. Sir? Something's come up. I need to handle it personally. He stood, grabbing his jacket. Clear my morning. Reschedule everything for tomorrow if possible. Where are you going? That's confidential. Madison felt a spike of irritation. Mr. Sterling, I'm your assistant. I need to know where you are in case of emergencies. He paused at the door. Fair point. I'm going to visit my father. He's at Mercy General Hospital. The irritation vanished, replaced by concern. Is he okay? He's dying. Has been for the past 6 months. Cancer. Daniel's voice was flat, emotionless. Don't put it on my official calendar. No one else needs to know. Then he was gone, leaving Madison staring after him, her heart aching unexpectedly. She spent the next hour rescheduling meetings, fielding calls, learning the rhythms of Daniel's professional world. Everyone wanted a piece of him. Board members, department heads, journalists, investors. Her phone never stopped ringing. At noon, Daniel still hadn't returned. Madison found herself checking her phone, wondering if she should reach out. But he'd said it was confidential, personal. Maybe he didn't want her intrusion. Still, she remembered Patricia's words. Part of your job is protecting him from himself. She ordered lunch from the Thai place she'd seen in Patricia's notes, Daniel's usual order. When he finally returned at 1:30, looking exhausted and somehow more vulnerable than she'd ever seen him, she had hot food waiting on his desk. Daniel stopped in the doorway, staring at the containers. You didn't have to do this. Patricia said you skipped lunch. I figured today was hard enough without being hungry too. He sat down slowly, like his bones hurt. Thank you. Madison hesitated, then sat in the chair across from him. How's your father? The same. Which is to say, not good. Daniel opened a container, the smell of pad thai filling the office. He's asleep most of the time now. The nurses say it won't be much longer. I'm sorry. Don't be. We were never close. He built this company, then handed it to me like a burden I was obligated to carry. I think I've spent my entire adult life trying to prove I was worthy of his legacy. He laughed bitterly. Funny thing is, he doesn't care anymore. All the success, the growth, the innovations, none of it matters when you're dying. Madison's throat tightened. Is that why you work so much? To prove something to him? Daniel set down his fork, meeting her eyes. Maybe. Or maybe I just don't know what else to do. The vulnerability in his admission made her chest ache. This wasn't the confident CEO. This was just a man, scared and tired, watching his father die. "You don't have to do this alone," she said softly. "I've been alone for a long time, Madison. I'm used to it. That doesn't mean you have to stay that way." Something shifted in his expression, a wall cracking. "What about you? Are you alone?" "I'm engaged." "That's not what I asked." Madison looked away, unable to hold his gaze, because he was right. She was engaged to Jeffrey, planning a wedding, building a future. But she felt profoundly alone. "We should get back to work," she said, standing abruptly. "You have the marketing presentation at 3. I rescheduled your legal meeting for tomorrow at 8. "Madison, professional colleagues, remember?" She forced a smile. "That's the deal." Daniel nodded slowly. "Right. The deal." But as she returned to her desk, Madison couldn't shake the feeling that the deal was becoming harder to keep with every passing moment. The first week flew by in a whirlwind of meetings, emails, and learning curves. Madison fell into the rhythm of Daniel's world, anticipating his needs, managing his impossible schedule, slowly understanding the man behind the CEO facade. She learned that he took his coffee black, not because he liked it that way, but because his father had told him adding cream was weak. She learned that he had a scar on his left hand from a childhood accident involving his mother's sewing kit. She learned that he hated board meetings, loved designing new products, and had a terrible habit of skipping meals when he was focused. She also learned that he was kind. When an intern spilled coffee on his suit, he laughed it off. When a project failed, he took responsibility instead of blaming his team. When she mentioned her mother's medical bills, he quietly made sure their health insurance covered pre-existing conditions. Friday afternoon, Madison was preparing to leave when Daniel called her into his office. "Yes, Mr. Sterling?" "Daniel, please." "When it's just us." He gestured to the chair. "I wanted to thank you for this week. Patricia was excellent, but you've brought something different. You actually make me stop and think about things beyond quarterly reports. That's my job." "Is it?" He leaned forward. "Because I don't remember challenge the CEO's worldview being in the job description." Madison smiled. "It was in the fine print." "Ah, I should have read more carefully." He pulled out an envelope. "This is for you." "What is it?" "Your bonus. You made it through your first week without quitting, which frankly is impressive given how demanding I am." Madison opened the envelope, then nearly fell out of her chair. "This is $2,000. Weekly bonuses are based on performance. You performed excellently." "Daniel, this is too much." "It's exactly what you earned." He stood, moving to the window. The sun was setting, casting orange light across his profile. "Madison, can I ask you something personal?" Her heart skipped. "Okay. Are you happy?" The question caught her completely off guard. "What?" "With your life. Your engagement. Are you happy?" Madison opened her mouth to give an automatic yes, but the word wouldn't come. She thought about Jeffrey, about their comfortable routine, about the wedding plans that felt more like a business transaction than a celebration. "I don't know," she finally admitted. Daniel turned to face her. "That's a problem." "Why do you care?" "Because He stopped himself, jaw clenching. "Because you deserve to be happy. Everyone does." The next morning was Saturday, which meant Madison should have been meeting with the wedding planner to finalize the centerpieces. Instead, she was at her apartment, staring at fabric swatches and feeling nothing. Her phone rang. Jeffrey. "Hey, are you on your way?" "Linda's waiting at the venue." "Actually, I was thinking maybe we should postpone." I'm exhausted from the new job. Silence on the other end. Then, "Maddie, the wedding is in 10 weeks. We can't postpone meetings. I just need a break, Jeffrey." "From wedding planning or from me?" The question hung heavy between them. Madison closed her eyes, suddenly exhausted beyond measure. I don't know. You don't know. His voice went cold. That's great. That's really great, Madison. I've been patient. I've given you space. But I'm starting to think Jessica was right. What did Jessica say? That you've been different since you started working for Sterling. That you mention him constantly. That maybe I should be worried. That's ridiculous. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, you're pulling away, and the timing is pretty suspicious. Anger flared in Madison's chest. You think I'm interested in my boss? That's what you think of me. I think you're confused. I think this new job, the money, the glamorous world you're suddenly part of, it's turned your head. Maybe it hasn't turned my head. Maybe it's opened my eyes. The words were out before she could stop them. Jeffrey sucked in a sharp breath. What's that supposed to mean? Madison sank onto her couch, suddenly too tired to fight. It means I don't know if I'm marrying you because I love you, or because it's what I'm supposed to do, because you check all the boxes, because everyone expects it. So what? You want to call off the wedding? Did she? The thought should have terrified her. Instead, she felt something like relief. I think we need to pause, take some time to really think about what we want. I know what I want, Maddie. I want you. I want the life we planned. If you don't want that anymore, you need to say so. I need time, Jeffrey. Please. He was quiet for a long moment. Fine. Take your time. But I'm not waiting forever. And I'm definitely not canceling the venue deposits. He hung up. Madison sat in the silence of her apartment, feeling like she'd just jumped off a cliff without knowing if there was water below. Her phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Working on a Saturday. Need a break? Want to grab coffee? She should say no. She absolutely should say no. This was her boss. This was inappropriate. This was everything she shouldn't do. She texted back. Where? They met at a small cafe in a neighborhood far from downtown, far from anyone who might recognize them. Daniel was in jeans and a simple gray sweater, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. Thanks for coming, he said as they sat at a corner table. I was going crazy in my apartment. Shouldn't you be with your father? I was there this morning. He's unconscious. The nurses said I should go home, rest. He wrapped his hands around his coffee cup. But home is just another empty space. Madison's heart twisted. No other family? My mother died when I was 12. No siblings. My father remarried, but we're not close. So it's just me and a company full of employees who see me as a meal ticket rather than a person. He smiled wryly. Sorry, that was dark. You're entitled to dark. Your father's dying. What about you? How's wedding planning? Madison laughed bitterly. About as fun as you'd expect. Actually, I just told Jeffrey I wanted to postpone. Daniel's eyebrows shot up. You did? I'm a mess. I don't know what I want anymore. She stirred her latte absently. 3 weeks ago, my life made sense. I had a plan. Job, marriage, future. Then I crashed a bachelorette party thinking you were a stripper, and everything's been upside down since. So you're blaming me for your existential crisis? Yes, entirely your fault. They both laughed, and something in Madison's chest loosened. When was the last time she'd laughed with Jeffrey like this? When had conversation felt this easy? Can I tell you something? Daniel leaned forward. That night at the club, when you followed me outside, you asked if I was okay. No one asks me that. I'm always supposed to be okay, always supposed to have the answers. That sounds exhausting. It is. His gray-blue eyes held hers. But with you, I don't feel like I have to pretend. You saw me at my absolute worst, fumbling through a strip routine, and you didn't judge. You laughed with me, not at me. Well, maybe a little at you. Fair. He smiled. My point is, you made me feel human. and I haven't felt that way in a long time. Madison's breath caught. The air between them felt charged, heavy with things unspoken. Daniel, we can't. I know. He sat back. You're engaged. I'm your boss. It's complicated and inappropriate, and about a dozen other things that mean we should keep this professional. Right. Professional. But Madison? He caught her hand across the table. If things were different. If we'd met under normal circumstances, I want you to know that I would absolutely ask you out. I'd take you to terrible movies and expensive dinners, and I'd try very hard to make you laugh because your laugh is possibly the best sound I've ever heard. Madison's eyes burned with unexpected tears. Daniel, but things aren't different. So I'll be your boss, and you'll be my assistant, and we'll pretend that's enough. He released her hand, but the warmth lingered. They finished their coffee in comfortable silence, both knowing they'd crossed a line even by having this conversation. When they parted ways outside the cafe, Madison watched him walk away, hands shoved in his pockets, shoulders slightly hunched against the wind. And she knew, with terrifying certainty, that she was in trouble. The following Monday, Madison arrived at the office to find it in chaos. Daniel's father had passed away over the weekend. The company was in mourning. Preparations for a memorial service were underway, and Daniel was nowhere to be found. He's not answering his phone, said Marcus from legal, clearly panicked. We have the merger meeting in an hour, and he needs to sign off on the contracts. Madison felt ice in her veins. I'll find him. She knew where he'd be. She didn't know how she knew, but she did. 20 minutes later, she was standing outside an old building in the industrial district. The sign read, Sterling Manufacturing, original location. The place where Daniel's father had started the company 40 years ago, now abandoned and scheduled for demolition. She found him on the roof, sitting on the edge, legs dangling over empty space. Her heart stopped. Daniel. He didn't turn. How did you find me? Lucky guess. She approached carefully, sitting beside him. You're scaring me with the roof thing. I'm not going to jump. Just thinking. About your father. About everything. He built an empire, and what did it cost him? My mother's attention, a relationship with me, any actual happiness. Daniel's voice was hollow. I'm following the exact same path, working constantly, alone, building something impressive that doesn't actually matter. It matters to the 3,000 people you employ, does it? Or am I just creating other workaholics who'll look back one day and wonder where their lives went? Madison didn't have an answer. She just sat with him, their shoulders touching, watching the city below. The funeral is Wednesday, Daniel finally said. Small service. I'd like you there. Of course. Not as my assistant, as my friend. Madison turned to look at him. His face was drawn, exhausted, vulnerable in a way that made her ache. Okay. As your friend. They sat in silence for a long time, neither ready to return to the world that waited below. The funeral was elegant and cold, just like Daniel's father had been. Madison sat in the back of the church, watching Daniel deliver a eulogy that was perfectly crafted and completely emotionless. He spoke of his father's business achievements, his dedication to the company, his vision for the future. He didn't mention love. He didn't mention family. And when it was over, he walked down the aisle without meeting anyone's eyes. The reception was at Daniel's penthouse, a stunning space with floor-to-ceiling windows and modern art that probably cost more than most people's houses. Madison hadn't planned to attend, but Daniel had texted her, "Please come. I can't face these people alone." She arrived to find the place packed with business associates, all networking over canapes and expensive wine. No one seemed to actually be mourning. Daniel stood by the window, a glass of scotch in his hand, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. When he saw Madison, relief flashed across his face. You came. You asked me to. I didn't think you would. You've been avoiding me since Saturday. It was true. After their conversation at the cafe, Madison had kept her distance. Professional emails only. No personal talks. It was safer that way. I'm here now, she said softly. A woman in her 50s approached, fake sympathy plastered on her face. Daniel, darling, your father would be so proud. And who's this lovely young woman? My assistant, Madison Hayes. Oh. The woman's smile turned patronizing. How nice. After she left, Daniel muttered. That was Veronica. My father's third wife. They've been separated for 2 years, but she showed up anyway. Probably hoping she's in the will. Is she? Hell no. Everything goes to the company, which means it goes to me. Which means I'm now responsible for an even larger empire that I didn't ask for. He downed the rest of his scotch. I need some air. They escaped to the balcony, 30 floors above the city. The night air was cool, the lights of downtown glittering below. I'm selling it, Daniel said abruptly. Selling what? The company. All of it. My father built Sterling Enterprises, and I've spent the last 6 years trying to prove I was worthy of it. But it's his legacy, not mine. I don't want to spend the rest of my life chained to someone else's dream. Madison stared at him. Daniel, you can't be serious. I'm completely serious. I'll set up a trust for the employees, make sure everyone's taken care of. But I'm done. And then what? What will you do? I don't know. He laughed, the sound edged with hysteria. Isn't that terrifying? I'm 32 years old, and I have no idea who I am outside of this company. Madison grabbed his arms, forcing him to look at her. Then figure it out. But don't make major life decisions while you're grieving. Your father just died. Daniel, give yourself time. I've given myself 6 years. How much more time do I need? As much as it takes. He searched her face, something desperate in his eyes. Come with me. What? When I leave. Come with me. We'll go somewhere far away from all this. We'll figure out who we are without all the expectations and obligations. Madison's heart hammered. Daniel, I can't. Why not? You don't want to marry Jeffrey. I can see it every time his name comes up. You're as trapped as I am, just in a different way. That doesn't mean running away is the answer. Maybe it is. Maybe sometimes running away is the bravest thing you can do. His hands came up to cup her face. Madison, I know this is crazy. I know the timing is terrible. But I can't stop thinking about you. From the moment you laughed at my pathetic strip performance, you've been in my head. Tell me you don't feel it too. She should pull away. She should remind him about professional boundaries. She should think about Jeffrey, about her job, about every logical reason this was a terrible idea. But standing there, his hands warm on her face, his eyes searching hers, Madison couldn't remember a single logical thought. I feel it, she whispered. Daniel kissed her. It wasn't gentle or tentative. It was desperate, hungry. 6 weeks of tension finally breaking. Madison's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer. She'd been kissed before, obviously. She'd been with Jeffrey for 2 years. But this was different. This felt like coming home and jumping off a cliff simultaneously. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, reality crashed back in. Oh God, Madison stepped back. We can't. I'm engaged. You're my boss. I know. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. I know. I'm sorry. That was inappropriate. Daniel, you should go. Before I do something else I can't take back. Madison fled. She made it to the elevator before the tears started. By the time she reached the lobby, she was openly sobbing. The doorman politely pretended not to notice. At home, she found Jeffrey waiting on her doorstep. I've been calling, he said, standing as she approached. You didn't answer. I was at a funeral. Sterling's father. I heard. He studied her tear-stained face. Are you crying because of the funeral, or because of him? Madison couldn't lie. Not anymore. Both. Jeffrey's face crumpled. You're in love with him. I don't know what I am. I'm confused and scared, and I've made such a mess of everything. Do you love me, Maddie? At all? The question deserved honesty. Madison looked at the man she'd planned to marry, saw the hurt and hope warring in his eyes, and felt her heart break for both of them. I care about you. You're kind and stable and everything I thought I wanted. But love? Real? Deep? Can't breathe without you, love? She shook her head. I don't think I do. And you deserve someone who does. Jeffrey was silent for a long moment. Then he pulled the engagement ring from his pocket. He'd been carrying it, she realized, hoping she'd put it back on. I knew, he said quietly. I think I've known for a while. You haven't looked at me the way you look at him. Not for months. Maybe not ever. Jeffrey, I'm so sorry. Me too. He tucked the ring away. For what it's worth, I hope he's worth it. I hope he makes you feel the way you deserve to feel. He left, and Madison sank onto her doorstep, crying harder. She'd just ended her engagement. She'd kissed her boss. She'd destroyed her carefully planned life in the span of a single evening. Her phone buzzed. Daniel. I'm sorry for tonight. I crossed a line. If you want to resign, I'll understand and provide excellent references. But I hope you'll stay. Not because I need an assistant, because I need you. Madison stared at the message, her heart and mind at war. She typed back. I broke up with Jeffrey. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, come back. Please, we need to talk. This was crazy. This was impulsive and reckless, and everything Madison had never been. But maybe that was the point. Maybe she'd been so busy being careful that she'd forgotten how to actually live. She went back. Daniel answered the door immediately, like he'd been waiting by it. The party was over. Guests gone. It was just them in this too large apartment filled with remnants of someone else's life. I shouldn't have kissed you, he said. But I'm not sorry I did. I'm not either. Madison stepped inside. I broke up with Jeffrey. Not because of you. Because of me. Because I was marrying him for all the wrong reasons. And what are the right reasons? I don't know. But I think they involve feeling alive. Feeling like every moment matters. Feeling like your heart might explode from how much you care. She moved closer. I think they involve not being able to imagine your life without someone, even though you've only known them for 6 weeks. Daniel's eyes darkened. Madison, if we do this, if we cross this line, there's no going back. You work for me. It's complicated. Everything worth having is complicated. Are you sure? Because I'm a mess. I'm grieving and angry and about to make massive life changes. I can't promise you stability. I don't want stability. I want real. I want someone who sees me, challenges me, makes me laugh when I'm standing outside a club in a ridiculous sash. She reached up, touching his face. I want you. Daniel closed the distance between them, capturing her lips in a kiss that was somehow both gentle and desperate. His hands tangled in her hair, hers clutched his shirt, and for the first time in weeks, Madison felt like she could breathe. They moved through the apartment in a blur of kisses and whispered words. Daniel pulled her toward the bedroom, then stopped. Wait. I need you to be sure. Completely sure. Madison looked at him. This man who'd accidentally stumbled into her bachelorette party and somehow changed everything. I've never been more sure of anything. What followed was tender and intense, discovering each other in the darkness. Daniel was attentive, careful, making sure she was okay with every touch, every kiss. And when they finally came together, Madison felt something shift in her chest. This wasn't just attraction. This was connection, the kind she'd been searching for without even knowing it. Afterward, they lay tangled in expensive sheets, the city lights casting shadows across the ceiling. "What happens now?" Madison asked softly. "I don't know." Daniel's arms tightened around her. "But I know I don't want to pretend anymore. Not about this. Your employees can handle the truth. I'm not going to hide you, Madison. I'm not going to treat what we have like something shameful. And the company? Are you really going to sell?" He was quiet for a moment. "I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe I'll restructure, bring in a partner, find a way to run it that doesn't consume my entire life. My father's death made me realize I've been living for his approval, even after he stopped caring. It's time I figured out what I actually want." "What do you want?" "You. This. A life that feels like living instead of just existing." He kissed her forehead. "But we're going to take it slow. Date properly. No rushing into anything." Madison laughed. "We already rushed into plenty." "Fair point. But I mean it. I want to do this right. Take you to dinner, terrible movies, all of it." "That sounds perfect." They fell asleep wrapped around each other, the weight of their choices and the possibilities of their future surrounding them like a cocoon. The next morning, Madison woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows. For a moment, she panicked. Then she remembered. Daniel. Last night. Everything that had changed. She found him in the kitchen, making coffee in nothing but pajama pants, his hair adorably mussed. "Morning," he said, handing her a mug. "How do you feel?" "Terrified. Excited. Confused. All of the above." "Yeah, that sounds about right." He pulled her close, pressing a kiss to her temple. "For what it's worth, I'm terrified too." "Really? You don't look terrified." "I'm an excellent actor." "Remember my strip performance?" Madison burst out laughing. "Oh God, don't remind me." "Too late. That disaster will bond us forever." Her phone rang. Jessica. Madison's stomach dropped. "I should answer this. Want privacy?" "No." "Stay." She answered. "Hey, Jess." "Hey, yourself. Jeffrey called me. Said you two broke up." "Yeah, we did." "Because of your hot boss?" Madison glanced at Daniel, who was trying and failing to look like he wasn't listening. "Maybe. Partly. It's complicated." "Maddie, please tell me you know what you're doing." "I absolutely don't. But I'm doing it anyway." Jessica sighed. "Okay. I'm here if you need me, even if I think you're crazy." "Thanks. I think." After she hung up, Daniel wrapped his arms around her from behind. "You okay?" "I will be. Eventually. Right now, I just feel like I've blown up my entire life. Sometimes things need to be blown up before they can be rebuilt better." The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Daniel officially announced he was bringing in a partner to help run Sterling Enterprises, someone who could share the workload and allow him to actually have a life. The business world was shocked. His board was furious. His employees were cautiously optimistic. And through it all, he and Madison navigated their new relationship while trying to maintain professionalism at work. They failed spectacularly at the professional part. "Mr. Sterling, you have a meeting in 10 minutes, Madison said one afternoon, poking her head into his office. "Cancel it." "Daniel, you can't keep canceling meetings." "Watch me." He pulled her into the office, closing the door. "I have something more important to do." "Which is?" "This." He kissed her, backing her against the door. Madison laughed against his lips. "We're terrible at the professional boundaries thing. The worst. But I don't care." A knock on the door made them jump apart. "Mr. Sterling," called his new assistant, hired to replace Madison since their relationship made her position ethically complicated. "The board is waiting." "Be right there," Daniel called back. He looked at Madison. "To be continued?" "Definitely." That evening they had dinner at a small Italian restaurant far from downtown. Daniel had insisted on taking her out properly. No takeout in his office, no hiding. "So," Madison said over wine, "tell me something I don't know about you." I'm afraid of heights." "You sat on the edge of a roof." "I was having an existential crisis. Desperation overrides phobias." He grinned. "Your turn." "I used to want to be a dancer, professional ballet." "What happened?" "I wasn't good enough." "I was good, but not great. And at a certain level, good doesn't cut it." Madison shrugged. "So I gave it up, went to business school, became practical." "Do you miss it?" "Sometimes. The feeling of moving to music, of being completely present in your body. There's nothing quite like it." Daniel reached across the table, taking her hand. "Maybe you should take it up again. Not professionally. Just for you." "Maybe I will." They talked for hours, discovering each other beyond the intensity of their initial connection. Madison learned that Daniel was secretly a terrible cook, but loved trying new recipes anyway. That he'd always wanted a dog, but thought he traveled too much. That his favorite movie was actually a romantic comedy, though he'd never admit it publicly. And Daniel learned that Madison sang in the shower, that she was terrified of spiders, that she'd never traveled outside the country because she'd been too busy being responsible. "We should change that," he said as they walked back to his car. "Travel. See the world. Be irresponsible together." Is that an invitation? It's a promise. 2 months after his father's death, Daniel held a small ceremony at the old Sterling manufacturing building before it was demolished. Madison stood beside him as he placed the first framed photo of his parents in a memorial wall, honoring the people who'd started it all. "Thank you for being here," he told her, "for all of it. There's nowhere else I'd rather be." They watched the sun set over the city, the building that represented so much history, standing silent behind them. "I've made a decision," Daniel said, "about the company." "Yeah? I'm keeping it. But I'm changing it, making it into something that honors work-life balance, that values people over profits. Something my father never did." "That sounds perfect. And I'm starting a foundation. In my mother's name. For kids who want to pursue dreams that don't fit in traditional boxes. Artists, musicians, dancers." He looked at her meaningfully. Madison's eyes filled with tears. "Daniel, you gave up your dream because you thought you had to be practical. I want to make sure other kids don't have to make that choice." She kissed him there, in front of the old building, with the city sprawling below them. 6 months after Daniel's accidental strip performance, Madison stood in a dance studio for the first time in 8 years. Her body was older, less flexible, but as she moved through basic positions, something in her soul awakened. Daniel watched from the doorway, a soft smile on his face. "You're beautiful when you dance." "I'm rusty." "You're beautiful," he repeated. She crossed to him, still in her dance clothes. "Thank you for encouraging this. Thank you for teaching me that life is about more than balance sheets and board meetings." He pulled her close. "You saved me, Madison. That night at the club, when you followed me outside, you started saving me. And you saved me right back." They'd fallen into an easy rhythm, working together during the day, though in different capacities now. Madison had been promoted to director of operations, overseeing company culture and employee wellness. Daniel had joked that she was perfect for the role since she'd started by making him take lunch breaks. Their relationship was out in the open now. Some people approved, some whispered about impropriety. But Daniel had been right. The truth was easier than pretending. Jessica had eventually come around, especially after meeting Daniel properly and seeing how happy Madison was. "Okay, I admit it," she'd said over drinks. "He's perfect for you. Even if he can't strip to save his life." "We don't talk about the stripping," Madison had laughed. "Oh, we absolutely talk about the stripping. That's the story you'll tell your grandkids." The thought of grandkids with Daniel made Madison's heart flutter. They hadn't talked about marriage or long-term plans. They were taking it slow, enjoying each day. But sometimes she caught him looking at her with such intensity that she knew he was thinking about forever too. One evening, Daniel surprised her by bringing her back to Club Velvet. "Why are we here?" Madison asked, laughing nervously. "I have unfinished business." He led her inside. The club was closed, empty except for the manager who Daniel had apparently paid off for the evening. The stage lights came on, bathing the space in purple and blue. "Daniel, what are you doing?" "I believe I owe you a proper performance." He climbed onto the stage, and Madison's mouth dropped open. "You're kidding." "I never kid about strip performances." He hit play on a speaker system, and music filled the space. This time, he wasn't fumbling or awkward. He'd clearly taken lessons, learned actual choreography. He moved with confidence, unbuttoning his shirt with practiced ease, his eyes locked on hers. Madison dissolved into laughter, but it was mixed with something else. Pride, affection, love. When the song ended, Daniel jumped off the stage and dropped to one knee in front of her. Madison's breath stopped. "Madison Hayes, 6 months ago, I walked into the wrong club at the wrong time and found exactly the right person. You've challenged me, changed me, made me want to be better. You've taught me that strength isn't about being perfect, it's about being honest. That success isn't measured in dollars, but in moments that matter." He pulled out a small box. "I'm still figuring out who I am outside of being Daniel Sterling, CEO. But I know I want to figure it out with you. Will you marry me?" The ring was perfect. Simple, elegant, with a single diamond that caught the light. Madison's eyes filled with tears. "You took stripping lessons for this proposal?" "I took stripping lessons for this proposal." "That might be the most ridiculous and romantic thing anyone's ever done." "Is that a yes?" "Yes. Absolutely yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, then stood, pulling her into a kiss that tasted like laughter and tears and promise. "I love you," he said against her lips. "I've loved you since you followed me outside and made me laugh when I wanted to disappear. I love you too, even though you're terrible at pretending to be a stripper." "Hey, I got much better." "You did. But I kind of liked the awkward version. They danced in the empty club, no music needed, just the sound of their hearts beating in sync. 2 months later, they got married in a small ceremony at the memorial garden Daniel had built in his mother's honor. No massive guest list, no elaborate centerpieces. Just their closest friends, family, and a commitment made under open sky. Jessica served as maid of honor, wiping tears throughout the ceremony. "I'm sorry," she whispered during the reception. "I just can't believe this all started because I hired the wrong stripper." "You hired exactly the right stripper," Madison corrected, looking at her husband across the room. He was laughing with his new business partner, more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. As if feeling her eyes, Daniel looked up, his gaze finding hers instantly. He excused himself and crossed to her, pulling her onto the dance floor. "Have I told you today that you're beautiful?" "At least 5 times. Make it 6. You're beautiful, Mrs. Sterling. That's going to take some getting used to. We have a lifetime." They swayed together, and Madison thought about the strange path that had led them here. A bachelorette party, a case of mistaken identity, a choice to follow her heart instead of her plan. "What are you thinking about?" Daniel asked. "How 6 months ago I was engaged to the wrong person, working a job I didn't love, living a life that looked good on paper but felt empty. And now? Now I'm married to a man who took stripping lessons for a proposal. I work at a company that's actually changing lives, and I dance 3 times a week just because it makes me happy." She looked up at him. "Now I'm actually living instead of just existing." Daniel kissed her forehead. "That's what we do for each other. We make life worth living." As the night wore on, Madison found herself standing outside, looking at the stars. Jessica joined her, handing her a glass of champagne. "Happy?" "Ridiculously happy. You know, I was thinking, we should probably hire actual strippers for my bachelorette party, just to be safe." Madison laughed so hard she nearly spilled her drink. "You're terrible." "Maybe. But you love me anyway." Inside, the music changed. Their song. Daniel appeared in the doorway, hand extended. "May I have this dance?" Madison took his hand, letting him pull her back into the light, into the music, into the life they were building together. And as they danced, surrounded by people who loved them, Madison realized that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places, from wrong turns and mistaken identities, from awkward strip performances and moments of vulnerability, from being brave enough to admit when something isn't right, and brave enough to reach for something better. She'd thought she had it all figured out 6 months ago, but she'd been wrong, and being wrong had led her to being exactly where she belonged. In Daniel's arms, dancing in a room full of love, with a future stretching before them full of possibility and promise. 1 year later, Madison stood in the lobby of Sterling Enterprises, watching a group of teenagers file in for the first annual Sterling Foundation Scholarship Ceremony. Dancers, musicians, artists, all kids who'd been told their dreams weren't practical. Daniel stood beside her, his hand finding hers automatically. "Your mother would have loved this," Madison said softly. "She would have loved you," he replied. The ceremony was beautiful. 20 kids receiving full scholarships to pursue their passions. Madison watched their faces light up with hope, with possibility, and felt tears prick her eyes. Afterward, they drove to the old Club Velvet location. It had been renovated into a community art center, funded by the Sterling Foundation. "Come on," Daniel said, pulling her inside. The space was transformed. Dance studios, music rooms, art galleries, everything his mother would have dreamed of. In the main studio, Daniel pulled Madison into his arms, humming their wedding song. "What are you doing?" "Dancing with my wife. Is that allowed?" "Always." They swayed together in the empty studio, the setting sun casting golden light through the windows. "I have news," Madison said. "Yeah?" "The foundation wants to expand internationally. They want me to head up the initiative." "That's incredible." Daniel pulled back to look at her. "When do you start?" "Not for a few months. I'll need time to prepare." "Prepare for what?" Madison took his hand, placing it on her still flat stomach. "For maternity leave." Daniel froze. His eyes went wide, filling with tears. "You're pregnant? About 8 weeks?" He let out a sound between a laugh and a sob, pulling her into a crushing hug. "We're having a baby. We're having a baby." They stood there, holding each other, as the sun set and the studio filled with shadows. Outside, the city moved on, people rushing to and from their lives. But in that moment, in that space where Madison had once watched Daniel fumble through the world's worst strip performance, they were exactly where they needed to be. "I love you," Daniel whispered. "I love you too, even though I'm a terrible stripper. Especially because you're a terrible stripper." They laughed, and the sound echoed through the empty studio, full of joy and promise and the beautiful chaos of a life built on unexpected beginnings. Because sometimes, the best love stories start with mistaken identity, with wrong rooms and awkward moments, with being brave enough to follow someone outside and ask if they're okay. And sometimes, just sometimes, the universe gets it exactly right by getting it completely wrong first. What did you think of their story? Share your thoughts in the comments. On a scale from 0 to 10, what's your rating? Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow all our stories, and check out more emotional stories by clicking on the end screen.